Chapter 9. Vava Fix. Strange things were happening on the beaches. Occasionally, the waves would wash ashore marine animals. Exhausted and gasping for air, they would meet their end in the heat of the scorching sun. Most inhabitants of the forest did not take much notice of this, besides Mimi. She had an eye for injuries and ailments. It began when she was a toddler. Whenever she or another koala had a wound, Mimi would walk up to Tuta or Afnu and say, "Vava fix," meaning heal the injury. Tuta and Afnu would then place a leaf on the wound as a dressing or rub on some herbal remedy. As Mimi grew older, she developed her parents' trait for fixing things. Whenever she saw something hurt or broken, whether it was an animal or an inanimate object, she would rush to fix it. One day, she saw a whale stranded on the shore and immediately rushed over to help. She knew the whale would not survive without water, but she struggled to see how she could carry enough for something so big. Mimi remembered that H.M. Maria had buckets on board, and she had seen pictures in the books of sailors using them to wash the deck of the ship. Knowing the whale did not have long, Mimi raced to the vessel and brought back a big wooden bucket. She filled it with seawater and started pouring it on the whale. The whale lifted its head up and looked at Mimi. She then saw that it had a big sheet of plastic caught in its mouth. Mimi cleared the plastic and the whale started to liven up. Mimi then waited for the tide to come in so that the whale could get back in the sea. Meanwhile, she continued to pour water on the whale to keep it alive. Eventually, the ocean took the whale. Mimi stood on the shore and watched the whale disappear. When it reached the appropriate depth, it circled around and expelled a big fountain of water in the air, as if expressing gratitude. In response, Mimi jumped up and down on the shore, muttering something, and then clapped her hands and shouted, "Yay!" On another occasion, she encountered a large turtle on the beach, which was wrapped in a plastic net. The turtle could barely move as Mimi started to examine it. It inquisitively stared at Mimi, trying to understand what was going on. "Leave me alone, little girl," said the turtle. "Vava fix," replied Mimi. And with these words, she started to pull the strings of the net. "Leave me," repeated the turtle. "It's hopeless. I've tried, and it does not work. I have given up. The net is too strong. You cannot break it." Mimi wouldn't listen. She fiddled with it for hours and eventually found a solution. She collected seashells from the beach and came back. The turtle looked at Mimi, both surprised and confused. "What are you doing?" he asked. Mimi said, "Vava fix again," before cutting the strings of the net with seashells. With much effort, she freed the poor turtle, who could not believe it. It bounced around with joy and shouted, "I'm free! I'm free! Thank you, little girl. You saved my life. My name is Miguel. I live on a beautiful island not far from here. If you ever want to visit it, let me know and I will take you there. All you need to do is blow this whistle." And with these words, Miguel gave Mimi a big curled up seashell. Mimi pointed at the net and said, "What is this?" Miguel sighed and said, This is what humans use to catch fish. The oceans are filled with them. There was a time when our waters were clean. Marine life was flourishing before the humans arrived. They started dumping rubbish in the oceans, making them dirty and less habitable. And now, marine life is struggling to survive. Mimi was disturbed by this. She could not understand why humans would have such disregard for other animals and the natural world. How could the smartest creatures on the planet do such a foolish thing, she thought. She waved to Miguel and said, "Bye-bye." "Bye-bye, little girl," said Miguel, "and thank you again." Miguel escorted Mimi to the edge of the forest, gazing at her tiny silhouette as she disappeared into the woods.